Hey, hello everyone. It's Tuesday again. Yeah, you like that? Yeah. I tried to get my little voice on for you, Miss Megan.
Love it. I love it.
Had to do a little something for you. But anyway, guys, we're gonna go jump right into it today. Okay. Thanks everyone for joining us. And as always, you can anything you want to post, anything you want to say, any comments are always welcome. So please feel free to share. I'm gonna go ahead and let Miss Megan introduce herself and then we'll go into it.
All right. Well, I'm Megan Gloss. For people that go to an awful lot of theater or go to the symphony, you're probably really tired of hearing about me. But I've been a vocalist for about 25, 30 years. I live in Dubuque with my husband. We're just in the process of selling our 100-year-old home, which you can see part of behind me. But yeah, I kind of came into the area by way of getting involved in theater. Long story short, had a friend in high school kind of slightly on a dare invite me and my very shy self to audition for the spring musical. And under the encouragement of a wonderful choir director that I had at the time, his name was Daniel Nye, really pushed me forward to consider doing a little bit more with my voice. And that's kind of led me to where I am today. When I'm not singing and not performing, I'm a features editor at the Telegraph Herald. So I'm celebrating my 20th year with them this summer, which is really cool. And I'm really honored to be, the scope of what I do really covers, the heart of what I do really covers arts and entertainment, which speaks to me as an artist. I love getting the opportunity to interact with different artists. Some of these artists that have been in the community I've known for many, many years, and they knew me as an artist when I started my role. So that's been really rewarding. And more recently, during the pandemic, because everything had shut down in terms of theater and I was working from home, I went back and got my certification in yoga. So yoga has become sort of another career that has sort of branched into, and some of that also came by way of music. So yeah, just a brief little bit about me. So yeah, I have various facets, a lot of different interests that I've been very lucky to pursue. So.
Oh my goodness, that was like the most amazing introduction that I've had in a long time.
It's actually a little unnerving. So like I'm in the position of interviewing most days. So very seldom am I interviewed. So you're always kind of hoping like, oh, I hope I do okay in this seat. You know, it's a little different. So
you are doing awesome. And I can tell I can tell that you are an interviewer by the way that you interview. Yeah. Because look, you just covered like you did a whole round spectrum. Like, look, she just interviewed herself. I'm done. I have nothing else to say. Like you're good. I need to have you on my team.
Well, good. I hope.
But that was awesome. That was awesome. And I like to point out to people that my main thing that I always point out to the audience, and to the talent as well, is that everyone thinks that a talent has to be something like, modeling, acting, stuff like that. But I also, and it is true. That is true. Those are talents. But
yeah.
People overlook the other. And I'm going to call them the other talents, because along with that obvious talent, like I say, you are a singer. That's your obvious God-given gift. And not only a singer, but a top-notch singer. You do something that most people cannot with their voice. And I find that very intriguing because I maybe I'm a little bit jealous. I mean, maybe, but we'll talk about that after the interview. But I think that you're absolutely amazing, and the fact that but I want to still point out, okay, let's say she's an amazing singer, yes, but you're so many other things, and that's what I always like to say to people: understand your gifts and your talents as a whole, as an entirety, because no person does just one thing great. There's always a multitude of things that you can do. Like, I mean, for instance, you do the Telegraph Herald, you're an interviewer, that's what you do. You're a very good communicator. You relate to people extremely well. You adapt to environments wonderfully. Because I remember when I first met you, you adapted like it was, you came right in there, did your interview, and you were like you had been there forever. I said, look at her, I like this lady. I like her. That's a lot. That's a talent, though. That's a talent.
Absolutely.
Well,
yeah. It's not something everyone can do. And, I think that's important too for artists, because I think more artists today are having to find themselves be multifaceted. Not just lean on just one creative outlet or one thing that they can do. For a long time when I was coming up, being trained in my undergrad, that was kind of the idea. Like, you can only do this one thing. And if you only do this one thing really well, and it happens to work out, that's great. I never really liked that. I didn't trust that for some reason, because I had so many different passions. And I think it's a little unhealthy to put all your eggs in one basket. It's an awfully big, not really a risk. It's a big commitment to one thing when you're not really looking at all those different areas that you might have something to offer, because you want to grow holistically as a person, not just as in one thing that you can do, So yeah, I think you're right on with a lot of what you're saying. Yeah.
Exactly. You just pretty much hit on the nail, because you want to grow holistically. That's a great word.
Yeah.
As a person, not just in your career, not just in your marriage, not just in you want to grow spiritually, mentally. I mean, every which way you possibly can. And I believe you covered all of those areas. I really think.
I mean, yeah, it's so interesting because, I mean, music was kind of my main thing. I started in college as a music education major and knew like within 2 weeks that I really had no desire whatsoever to be in a classroom. It's funny now because I teach privately. I love working one-on-one with new voices, especially. It's really something I'm very passionate about. But that's a big thing of where I teach with Centrally Rooted in Dubuque. I mean, we kind of work on developing singers holistically. It's not just about the voice, it's about the whole person. And coming into music led me to journalism, led me to yoga. And all of those things have really informed everything else that I do and the way I present myself and the way I live my life and the people that are in my life. I met my husband doing musical theater. He was my lighting technician. For those in theater, always be nice to your tippies because you might marry one of them someday.
You never know.
You look good and sound good, but I mean, you might get a crush on one and marry them. I don't know. So, yeah, it's just the arts are a wonderful thing and expression is a wonderful thing. It's a journey. Life is about the whole journey of life. And, if you have the benefit of a really wide perspective and you keep yourself open and kind of those things that interest you. I think it's really exciting to see where you can go and what you can do. Yeah, I think that's great.
I think so too. I know so. I spent many years trying to train people just that, the very thing that you're saying right now, and you can't.
Yeah,
you can't be trained. You have to trick them into it. It was so funny. I found that but like you said, you discover the talent first, right?
You do.
And then through that talent, you reach the inside of a person, their soul. Yeah. You reach them within there and you find what's in there and you help to bring that out into the world. And they use that gift and talent to do what they were really always meant to do.
Exactly. Yeah. It's following your bliss and following your purpose, and listening to what that is and not being afraid of it either. I mean, sometimes you go on that path as an artist too, and You might begin very passionate about something like painting, and then maybe for some reason you need to take a break from it. I hear from a lot of artists too all the time that suffer burnout, that are like, oh, it must mean that I don't love what I'm doing. No, of course not, because after a while it does become a job. If you're fortunate enough to work at that level, there's a little bit more at stake, and it can be a little bit pressuresome, and there can be a little bit of a difference in preparation. And sometimes your passion for it gets set aside, and then you have to kind of regroup and remember what you loved about it in the first place. And sometimes that means stepping away, and sometimes you're lucky enough to find something else that kind of fills that void. So again, it's just leaving yourself open to the different possibilities.
Awesome. And I agree 1000%. 1000%. You have mentioned a couple of times about the journey. You've mentioned it a couple of times that it's about the journey.
Yeah.
And from your perspective, when did you discover the journey? Like, when did you figure it out that, hey, this is not just this, but it's all of this? And when did you figure it out, and where has this journey taken you, or where is it leading you?
Yeah. So going all the way back to that audition that I did, I had a friend who was new to school. I was painfully shy. I did theater, and I was like in the choir you didn't have to audition for, because I wouldn't want to sing in front of anybody. I mean, I was pretty quiet. And she was like, I really want to meet some new friends. I want to meet some more people. Will you audition for the spring musical with me? And I'm like, and I still remember, I tell this story a lot, walking up the stairs in the auditorium and not being able to feel my legs, and thinking to myself, like, if I just fell into the pit orchestra right now, I wouldn't have to do this. And that seemed at the moment like a better alternative than having to get up and sing in front of all my classmates. But I got up and I did it. I sang this song called "I'm Gonna Wash That Man Right Out of My Hair" from South Pacific. Wash that man right out of my hair. It's cute. It's really kitschy. But I was just terrified. And I got down and I finished the audition, and that was that. And I was sitting in study hall the next morning, and the choir director came over and sat down next to me, and he's like, so where have you been? Why haven't you auditioned for the choir? And, like, how is this the first time I've really ever heard you? And I just kind of shrugged and said, I don't know. And he's like, well, I want you to come to my office after school, and we're going to pick out 3 solos for you. We're going to prepare you for state solo and ensemble contest. And I want you to look at all state. And I'm going to, starting next week, this is no longer a free period for you. You're going to be in the chamber choir. And, you identify a lot with your kid, with your friends at that age when you're a kid. You think if my friend auditioned and didn't make it into this choir, then I certainly can't, So I never thought that was, I never looked at myself as being different from them. I always kind of thought, well, if they couldn't do it, then I can't do it. And it turns out I was a whole different person that could, so I kind of came to that a unique way. But there was something really empowering, I think, that I found in being able to sing in front of other people and share what was kind of a vulnerable part of myself. And that what it really gave me was courage and confidence in myself. And sometimes having that one person who believes in you enough to be like, hey, you might take a second look at what you're doing there. That might be worth pursuing. And I think it wasn't even necessarily so much the voice. I loved singing. I always loved singing, but it was chasing how that made me feel, and the confidence that gave me to be able to stand in front of people and be brave enough to be who I was and not feel like I needed to make that so simple. And once you have that breakthrough, if you're lucky enough to get that breakthrough and push through that, I mean, it's really powerful. And I think it's a little addicting. You kind of want to continue to put yourself. David Bowie said it beautifully once, where he's like, if you feel safe where you're working, you're not working in the right area. You always want to go slightly out to where your feet are just barely touching, with this metaphor, if you're in a pool or a body of water, and just barely where it feels maybe slightly unsafe. But that's the excitement. That's really where some real work can happen. And that's where you should be. So, I mean, I really hold that a lot now because I think that's a lot of what I had going on at the time. And in hindsight, now looking back, 25 years since I auditioned for that musical, it's really sort of been that journey for me in terms of just chasing that courage and seeing how that helped me evolve as a human being, and the voice was just a happy byproduct of that. So I was just very
Wow. That is absolutely amazing. That is amazing. It makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense to me, and I'm sure many other artists out there. When you're a creative person, I believe that's kind of what leads you, what guides you, is a little bit of that unknown. It's like, how far can I go?
Yeah.
And it keeps things exciting. I once told someone, if I step on a stage, or if you step onto a platform or to speak or a catwalk to walk or whatever your talent is, and you don't feel that little bit of butterflies in your tummy, or that little bit of something, then it's time to probably just, I don't know, maybe reconsider some things, because if it doesn't give you that thrill anymore, that little bit of excitement or that anticipation, and it's not there, then it might be time to kind of expand. It's time to grow. It's time to grow. It's time to move forward, and check out some different areas. And I love how you're saying that you discovered your song. You knew you had your song, your voice. You knew it was within you. You already knew it was there. I love you've explained to us how that kind of blossomed and came out of you, and the benefit that it has given you in your life, which is wonderful. And I want to just now kind of focus on where you're going with this now. Like, what is your ultimate goal with yourself? Like, I mean, do you want to have a music school someday and just train all day, or you want to have a you're just going to put on orchestras in your backyard and, like, I don't know, that would be really cool, actually.
I'm really, I get asked this question a lot. I'm very much in my lane. And they always say, stay in your lane. And, usually that equates to, like, find the thing you do well and do that thing very well. And again, it goes back to that idea of you can only do one thing very well. And that's not necessarily true. We have a lot of gifts, right? So, and some people might choose to do that one thing well, and that's absolutely fine if that's where you feel you're supposed to be on your journey. I've just been fortunate enough to have a lot of different things that have called to me. I started studying music. I went into vocal performance. About midway through college, I picked up the degree in journalism because I had an interest in writing. I think ultimately at heart, I'm a storyteller. I think I like that connection with an audience, whether that be a reader or whether that be somebody sitting watching a theatrical performance or in a recital or a concert. Even in yoga, you're on a bit of a journey. And I think that's what the human connection that really appeals to me, and the ability to open people up and find different parts of themselves through the work that I do. So I think for me, obviously I'm a loyalist. So, I've stayed with, this year is my 15th year, I think, singing with Madison Opera Company. So, I graduated obviously from Clark University. So I stayed in Dubuque, didn't really know if I would stay here or not, but life kind of put me on that place. Before I graduated, I had a job lined up at the TH, and I went into that. And that's just, I was there for 3 years. I ran an entertainment publication called River Stages, a little bit like 365 Inc. So it was kind of a weekly entertainment pub, and went into it and had absolutely no idea what I was doing. I think they wanted somebody who was sort of like a 20-something that would be excited about hitting up the bar scene. And that was fun until like my late 20s, when I had like a serious boyfriend who was my husband and didn't want to be up till 2 a.m. anymore. So I did that, and I boomeranged for a while. I was an editor at a publishing house, and I really found I didn't like that because I was in a cubicle all day. So I went back to TH. I always kind of kept a foot in the door there as a freelancer, and became a writer, and eventually was promoted to editor. I love our organization. I love our work culture. I really love that my bosses have entrusted me to really keep my finger on the pulse of the art scene, and
Awesome.
in terms of our coverage of that. And where a lot of newspapers have scaled back their coverage of the arts, we've really stepped forward because we value that. And the arts, in Dubuque, as many people know, in the tri-state area really are very vibrant.
Very.
I love being able to help tell that story of these passionate artists in our community and the exciting things that they're doing and the vision they have for it. I've been really lucky to work with our Dubuque Symphony Orchestra. It's always so much of what I do in classical voice, I have to go away to do because there's limited opportunities there. And I've great relationships with all of our theater companies. I will be with the Dubuque Symphony. I can share that next February. So people that are listening, it'll be a great opportunity to check it out there. But Madison Opera, I auditioned for them. And when I started making that leap into professional performance, they've been gracious and they've worked with me for 15 years consecutively, just about every season. And they've really given me a good home. A lot of people kind of look at the prestige of a Metropolitan Opera or Broadway, and I feel like if you can be with a sound organization that has good business practices, that treats people well, and that's sustainable, that's the best thing you can do. It's kind of what's kept me with Madison. It's kind of my second home. It's certainly what's kept me with the TH. And it's kind of what's kept me with Dubuque. Dubuque is, it has its challenges, but it's a very forward-thinking community. And I think it's a community that aspires to do good things. And I think there's, we're starting to see a slow curve of that boat, so to speak. I feel like there's, some new voices in the community that are excited about mixing things up a little bit. I think there's younger artists in the community that are excited about making their mark, that are very eager, that are very hungry, even to a level, I would say, that my generation of artists that I came up with, who were also eager and hungry, not though. I feel like the ones today are really, really willing to get in there and roll up their sleeves and do what needs to be done. And I think that's so admirable. So, in terms of like having my own music school, I work for a great one with a really good friend of mine who owns Centrally Rooted. So shout out to Kelly.
Okay, awesome.
And Callie's doing wonderful things. And her method of teaching really speaks to me because it's about that holistic. It's this idea that, you don't have to go into a music lesson. You don't have to be creative and have the person instructing you put you down, insult you, make you feel wrong. In fact, you can inspire the same kind of confidence I was given by having a really great teacher that's like, here's what we can work on to make you improve, but here's what you really do amazing at. And here's how you're amazing when you do that. And it's about, again, building people holistically. I'm kind of happy right now just to hitch my wagon to it. Everything's awesome. What it is doing in terms of teaching. And being in yoga, they've provided a wonderful home for me as well to teach in. That's just such a beautiful space for me. I've had a lot of really great personal breakthroughs there. So like I said, whatever way I can to make.
Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Okay. Now I'm going to have to check out Centrally Rooted.
Oh, you should.
Check that out. I've never even been there. Never been. Never didn't know really what they were. Okay. You've got a lot going on, and I love it. Everything that you have, everything you have going on though goes right back to supporting the arts, supporting the community, giving back in some way, shape, or form, and that's what it's all about. That's literally what it's all about. That's what it boils down to. So I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Everything you've mentioned is, and then another thing that you mentioned that I also try to instill in my people is that, a lot of people let their situation or their circumstance or their location or something like that stifle the love that they have of what they do. Yeah. It's almost like they use it as an excuse. It's like, well, I'm in this little bitty town, or I'm in this place where nobody's at, and I
Yeah.
can't do this and I won't be able to do that. And it's like, but you know what? The technology and the World Wide Web and all these things have opened up the entire world to you. There's nothing that you can't do. There's nothing you can't accomplish. There's no place you can't go. And no one says that you have to leave your hometown and forever and ever and ever and ever and never come back. There are ways that you can make it happen and still have a nice home, a nice place to go here. You know, and you've made it your home here.
Yeah. You know,
So,
it's
yes.
interesting. I had my voice coach who coaches at the Lyric Opera of Chicago. He had told me once, he's like, you know, great art is needed everywhere. It's not just needed in New York City. It's not just needed in Chicago. Good artists need to be everywhere because there's not a place, a corner in the world where that doesn't take place. And I always think about Prince. So I'm like, you know, classical vocalist. My favorite musician in the world is Prince. And
Awesome.
when he passed away, I was so, I was just so heartbroken because it kind of was like this little dear part of my childhood that had fallen away. And I couldn't pull myself away from news coverage. So my husband was just like, pack a bag. So we went to Minneapolis the weekend he passed away, and we felt a little crazy. But he lives in this small town that's like Asbury, Iowa. I mean, it's this.
Oh my gosh! Wow.
He's a great example of the consummate artist who never left his hometown and just gave back to it. And that's the thing. Like, we need to give back to our communities. We need to. If you aspire to get out of Dubuque, Iowa, and to, you know, be in another community, that's great. But it's about what you put into the world. It's not what you can take from it necessarily, you know? So if you go to another community, know that you've got that same responsibility there to give back to it, you know? And that's, you know, there's nothing wrong with having big aspirations, but, you know, just a reminder that if you find a place where you can plant roots, where you're happy, where you are supported, and the older you get, I find, you know, the more community support means to you, and establishing community means to you. I lost my mom last year. And that was
my condolences.
yeah, that was huge to me, just to know that I had people around me that knew me, that cared, that knew that knew me when I was a child, because that, as you get older, that becomes your greatest connection. And, you know, to be able to support a community, again, like this one has really been, that's made a home for me, and that's fulfilled me and challenged me in all the ways that I've looked for, you know, unless I find a reason to leave, you know, I'm very happy. So, you know, and that's what it's all about, is finding your happiness, follow your bliss. You know,
that is
bliss can be everywhere. So yeah, don't limit yourself by location, you know.
That's exactly what. But then, like you said, that's exactly what I was saying. That basically, you explained it. I mean, fantastically. And you know, and don't forget, but also don't forget where you come from. Right. That was another thing you said. You have to be willing to come and give back and be that. You know, be that inspiration for others. You know.
Absolutely, yeah. And you know, I'm not from Dubuque. A lot of people think I am. I originally came from Detroit. And then I lived in Denver. So then I landed in Dubuque. So, I mean, by far, this is probably the smallest community I've lived in. But it's been a good one.
That is absolutely amazing. I'm going to ask you if you want to sing, or if you would prefer that we maybe play something at the end of the interview here. So, but it's up to you. If you have something
I would love to provide something because I have a couple really high quality performing recordings. And I think that would be, it's so difficult, especially on this technology, to have
the sound
in that sound. And these are well mixed and everything. So yeah, I would be happy to provide maybe a couple things for you. Kind of listen. Otherwise, you know, always a big plug. I'll be with the Dubuque Symphony next February. And there's another really fantastic tenor coming back from Dubuque, who has been at the Metropolitan Opera, who's in Paris currently, or just got back from Paris from singing in Paris. So
Wow.
Super excited to be working with him. So that'll be my little plug for the symphony to check us out there. It's going to be a great show.
That sounds super interesting. I will please keep me posted. Please.
For sure.
Totally come out and support. Okay, and I normally ask at the end of the interviews, I ask people to give a little insight to the talent, the up and coming talent or whatever. But I think you've already done that.
Yeah,
there's pretty much little tidbits.
People, last night I taught a yoga class. One of the classes I teach is called Yoga Jams Live. And we do it once a month where a live musician will come in with us. And his name was Daniel Eric. And beautiful, beautiful musician, lovely voice. Eli, who that's how we both met, was from Eli.
Awesome.
Beautiful tenor. I'm really excited to see what else he continues to do. And even just arts advocates. I mean, I'm really impressed with Brianna Thompson and her effort to really create a space for young artists, for BIPOC artists that aren't necessarily always getting their voices heard, that absolutely should be, because they are ready, they are out there. We need to acknowledge that. And, I think, there's just, again, so much great talent that's already here, but so much too. And we really need to foster and we need to support that so that it can sustain us in the community, because the arts, they're everything for growth, everything. That's what people are really, that's what they want in these communities. They want artistic expression, they want creativity, more than they want infrastructure and more than they want, some of these other things. The arts are very important. So the more we can create a safe space for people to come and feel like they all can have that opportunity to play and express who they are and find that confidence that I got to experience as an artist, I think that's a beautiful thing. So we should do that. We do our part.
Should continue. We need more. We need more support. People coming out. Yeah, and I'm working on that too. Getting people together and just making it known and just getting people out there. It's we need the support. We need it. And I'm looking and I'm seeing a lot of things going on. I mean, there's so much happening here in Dubuque. I mean, everywhere. Everything to improv, to live music, to theater. It's just so much. So it's not, we're not lacking. That's for sure. In the areas of talent, we're not lacking. So yes, I am. Is there anything else that you have coming up? Anything else that you want to mention before we close this evening? I know you said
selling a beautiful house for. No, I'm kidding.
Oh yay!
So really, just get out there and support these things. It's one thing to create, but even as creatives, we need to, put our money where our mouth is. We need to pay to the theater. We need to go to fundraising events. And if we have that ability, we need to give. We need to, buy local art. We need to go to local art shows. We need to, get out there and show up for it as much as we can put out that work. That's equally important. So that would be, my one last plug for anybody interested in the arts. And you know what? Every door, I work with so many of these people with my role at the TH, every single door is open, regardless of your experience level, regardless of who you are, of where you've come from. There are so many nonprofit organizations that are connected to the arts in the community that really want new people, new diverse voices at the table, that want volunteers, that want to see new people, new blood get in there. So, all it takes is asking a question, showing up, and seeing if you can get yourself in that hat. And it's a great place to be. And there's a lot of people out there willing to support that. So.
Awesome. Thank you so much, my dear lady. I'll be seeing a lot of you, I'm sure. I'll be making sure that I see all of you. I appreciate your time today. Even in the middle of going through everything you got going on, you're getting a lot of family stuff, a lot of great things happening. So I'm like, that's awesome. Good luck on the sell. I think that would be awesome. Yes, that'd be amazing if that happens really quickly, very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Everybody out there listening, yeah. But yeah, let's hope that goes great. And I'm looking so forward to next year, to February. I can't wait to see you here in
Oh,
Dubuque.
thank you. Yeah, it's going to be wonderful.
Super excited. So, congratulations on all your successes. I see, of course, much more in your future. Maybe next time I can see you live. I'll
Yeah.
have that set up next time. We'll do a little thing after February, see how things are going. And but I appreciate you so much, Miss Megan. And
Very much.
oh, everybody, we're gonna after the interview, you want to stay tuned because I'm gonna actually have some of the wonderful music of Miss Megan Gloss after the interview. So so stay tuned. Thank you again, my dear, and you have a beautiful, beautiful evening. Stay blessed.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Bye bye.